Hey neighbor, welcome back to ARTV. My name is John and it's time for a throwback review for the 10th anniversary of the debut self-titled album by a band that started off so small and so humble, practically in their bedroom, recording an album before the 2010s started and then went on to dominate the next decade. They're probably one of my favorite groups of the 2010s, but it didn't start in such a bombastic way as maybe you would have expected. In fact, many T.O.P. fans haven't gone back to explore the debut album, but this, ladies and gentlemen, is where it all started. If you're excited to see this review today, I hope you enjoy hearing my thoughts on it, then please do me a favor and hit the like button on this review, and subscribe if you happen to be new to the channel. The lineup of 21 Pilots 10 years ago compared to now is vastly different, yet somehow kind of the same. Tyler Joseph was always the leader of this band. It's essentially his project with musicians that do contribute some ideas, but leave the writing and overall concepts to him. Drummer Chris Sala and founding bassist Nick Thomas make their only album appearance in the T.O.P. discography on the self-titled, releasing independently at the tail end of the year right after Christmas, which kinda seems like an extremely weird time to drop an album, but then again, it's Tyler Joseph we're talking about. I guess we gotta trust the artistic process? This debut album didn't exactly attract much fanfare until years later, maybe even 2015 when the band were blowing up beyond the Tumblr crowd that had already been crazy about them for quite some time. It's bleak but defiant, filled with some outside influences for sure, but also the guidance of a heavy-headed man with a weight on his shoulders that he had to write to escape. World building is now something 21 Pilots are known for, but the art form was already slowly creeping in on their debut album all these years ago. How well did they do it? And the even bigger question, how does it hold up? This is not their best work, not by a long shot, but it's also not bad. In fact, it's actually pretty good, especially given the limited tools available to them as they made it and the young age of the artists involved. You'll quickly catch on to the mechanics, and I feel like it's kind of a love-hate thing, especially with early 21 Pilots material. There's a breezy cadence to many of Tyler's rhyme schemes, almost like it's a bit too calculated in some places, even if the overall tone still hits home. There's plenty of synth magic at work, for better or for worse, but the use of live drumming and some spry bass lines makes some of these songs become a bit more fully realized as they go on. It all does feel a little bit too squeaky clean overall though, like the diamond got polished so aggressively that it actively started disintegrating a bit. Themes are a huge part of what does work about the self-titled album though. It's hard to argue with some of the commentary that stokes the conversation, with allegories, crippling anxieties, and faith driving much of the narrative. I wouldn't blame you for getting sucked into the whirlwind and being able to forgive some of the musical shortcomings if you find his musings much more deep and poetic. The self-titled 21 Pilots album is up for debate in most regards, as is really any album ever, but I'd say the one undeniable fact about it is that it will actively make you sit down and think. It's challenging stuff for a young mind, which is what wrote these songs, and naturally would be the target demo that they're probably hoping will listen and connect with the message. I guess that's the best way I can say it without sounding like I'm trying to pass this off as some sort of philosophical masterpiece, but damn the daft naysayers, there's always been something special about the mind of Tyler Joseph. We're given an occasionally silly outing, but more often than not, it's an adventurous one that does drag its feet a bit with more than an hour's worth of music, but the tracks that are worth coming back to are really worth it. High highs, mellow lows, and a few scraps I would have left on the cutting room floor. Not bad for a debut. The at the time trio seemed to take influence from the grandiose stylings of British band Muse on cuts like Trapdoor and a handful of others that really dial up the melodrama, but you know what? Maybe it's just due to me being a massive Muse fan. I can appreciate this little nod. The high octane piano moments feel pretty brilliant when they come out guns blazing, words grazing, but it almost doesn't happen as often as I'd like it to, leaving the overall sound feeling a bit scattered. Let's start off by talking about Friend Please, because I really feel like this is kind of like fossil evidence, if you will, that we can uncover to remind us of the early mission statements of T.O.P. Check in on your friends, take care of your own mental health and make that a priority, and also perhaps start a life-changing conversation with a friend that might actually really need it. I love the swelling pianos on this one as well. It's just an earnest track that remains one of my favorites from this LP. Even better than that is Taxi Cab, and this is a track that I would probably call their biggest accomplishment of the early days. It features an incredible rap section from Tyler Joseph that really breaks down a lot of transparent issues that so many of us deal with, and also the catchy lingering vocal melodies of the early parts of the song. The piano just kind of feels haunting, foreboding in many ways. Even though there are definitely some lulls on the self-titled album, I think my favorite back-to-back combo is Air Catcher and Trap Door. It's a hell of a punch that you get hit with when you're met with both of those tracks in a row. It's almost a little bit much. You just want to savor pieces of Air Catcher before moving into Trap Door, and it quite literally pulls it out from under you and you fall in. Air Catcher has a great vocal melody about it. I love the way that this track is stylized musically. And then Trap Door, I think, even doubles down on that atmosphere even more. It makes itself very available and relatable in a lot of different ways. Then we have the more complicated tracks, the ones that I just have a hard time fully connecting with for one reason or another, and that does plague a fair bit of the album, if I'm being honest. Implicit Demand for Proof is unfortunately one of those tracks, and that's the opening song. It's kind of a choppy start to the album. Honestly, the vocals feel a little bit too exaggerated, and the synths, while they are colorful and expressive, they're also cheap sounding, which again is a low budget thing. I understand that, but it just feels a little bit too MySpace era for my personal liking, and the way that they're just drawn out and feel over the top, and the way that they're utilized in certain spots, it just doesn't personally do that much for me. The Pantaloon does kind of have a clever way of writing about dementia and the mind slipping away, but I can't help but find this to be a little bit too overly jolly musically, like almost obnoxious, and I guess that's the best way that I can put it politely. Like, I do like much of this record, but it can just get downright obnoxious in the way that it does certain things. But also, you can see where the idea lies, and that the heart and that the good intentions are there. It's just that sometimes you just want to skip past it. There's definitely the deeper tracks that I'm drawn to, like A Car, A Torch, A Death, and even the closing moment Isle of Flightless Birds that so many fans are still drawn to this day. There's a nice little run between March to the Sea to Johnny Boy to Oh Misbeliever. There's good ideas packed in there, but also, like Johnny Boy, for example, I can listen to it once and I'm like, oh, that was good to hear again, but I'm good for a while. Addict with the Pen is the final track that I want to talk about, and for many fans that rolled in with the success of Blurry Face, this is one of the only early songs that they know. But it's also a really powerful track, so who can really complain? Being able to go back and explore the early years of a band on the brink of smashing through the noise and hitting a massive audience is pretty cool, even if I do find the results to be a bit mixed. I can honestly say that I don't find listening to this record to be all that rewarding, not in full, at least. I could chop this down to 9 or 10 songs easily to make a more even flow, but hey, maybe that's just me. I'm personally gonna give this a strong 3 out of 5, but do remember, part of what my rating is based on is what I feel the artist is capable of doing. And this, of course, isn't anywhere close to their most fully realized record. Any other 21 Pilots videos you'd like to see? Should I rank all the songs on maybe Trench or Vessel from worst to best? Drop a comment and let me know. And don't forget to destroy that like button while you're here, and subscribe if you happen to be new to the channel. There's a lot more coming your way very soon. Follow my socials that you see linked on screen in the description down below, and consider supporting my Patreon. I'll see you soon for more on ARTV.